on aircraft, whether you're operating on the aircraft or whether you're on the ground.
You can follow me on Twitter @holiday_hut. Still to come, travel news, including a story from Thomas Cook and a photographer who fell on a little boy. But before that, the conversation I've had with Frank over the last 2 shows all sounds a bit doom and gloom. It didn't mean to be that. We're just talking about what can go wrong with a holiday, or what might be making you ill, what you should be looking out for. But say we're not doom and gloom all the time. So to finish off a conversation with Frank, I asked him if there's anything to look forward to, anything cheerful in the world of travel for 2017.
Well, cheerfully, he says, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I appreciate that, we talk a lot about the deficits in travel, but, there's an awful lot of positives as well. And, for me personally, this year, I'm going to head off to Italy for a couple of weeks in the middle of the year. And, I'm going to take trains. I'm going to get on trains and buses and things like that and get down to brass tacks, down to the grassroots, and enjoy cheaper travel, but also get me into other areas where I haven't been to before. And I think that's what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to try and do a little bit of cheaper travel, a little bit more adventurous. And I'd say to your listeners, if you're thinking of going to some country in Europe, don't just think about flying or even taking a package holiday. If you've got the real interest, research a destination that you'd really like to go to, and start to look at those train companies and bus companies and some of the smaller unusual hotels. And, I can think of some that will be on my route, which I'm going to be blogging about over the summer as well, when I go down there. And, that's what I would say is, whatever is going on in the world, whatever ills are befalling us as a continent or indeed as a nation, think about, if you've got the money to go away, think hard about where you want to go and what you want to get out of that holiday. And, design the best experience for yourself, because, there are plenty of resorts and destinations out there who will welcome you with open arms, that's for sure.
Well, it seems a long way off, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy it when you get there.
I will, yes. I'd love to have a trip away before then, but it'll probably be all business up until probably June time, I should think.
Okay. Well, thanks, Frank. Thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.
Hello, it's Roy. Yeah, we're on the ferry. We should be in Spain tomorrow afternoon.
Well, be careful. Lots of crooks on the roads out here.
Crooks? You know where I grew up.
This is different. They target British registered vehicles.
Yeah, they used to do that round my way.
I'm serious. They'll tell you there's something wrong with your car, so you pull over, then they rob you. Or they distract you at a motorway stop. They target hire cars, too.
Hire cars?
Yeah, well, they're driven by tourists.
Oh, OK, I'll watch out.
Good. So, looking forward to the drive down?
Yeah, well, I was.
Thieves in Spain have been targeting hire cars and UK-registered vehicles, so be extra careful on the roads. For details, visit gov.uk and search for Living in Spain.
You can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Before I get onto the travel news, as I've mentioned quite a few times so far this year, this is peak booking time. And some of you may be getting your paperwork or looking at the terms and conditions. Always look at the terms and conditions. Never hand your money over without looking at the terms and conditions. And there could be one or two phrases you're not too sure what they mean. So I'm going to run through an A to Z of travel jargon and explain what they are. So sit down, make yourself comfy, and here I go. First one is APD, which is Air Passenger Duty, and it's a UK government imposed charge in addition to other airport taxes. An Apex fare is an advanced purchase excursion fare airline. This is a special fare at a lower rate. Restrictions will be in place which may prevent you from getting a refund or making any changes. ARNK, arrival not known, is used to show a surface/sea sector in a flight booking. For example, Heathrow to JFK, New York, then Los Angeles to Heathrow. There's a surface journey between New York and Los Angeles. ATOL, ATOL or ATOL, depending on who you're talking to, Air Transport Organiser's licence. This is required by any UK company selling package holidays with flights included. It provides customer protection if a tour operator goes into financial failure. If the passengers have not travelled, they get their money back, or if the passengers are on holiday, arrangements are made for their return. If you book a flight only through a travel agent, then it will have ATOL protection, so you're covered. If you book a flight only seat with an airline, then you're not covered, as I mentioned last week. Checked baggage is the baggage up to a specified limit that is carried in the hold of the aircraft, and there are two types of systems in place for checked baggage allowances. The first one is probably the one you're most familiar with, is the weight system based on the total weight of baggage, no matter how many different pieces. And there's the piece system, which is based on the number of pieces of baggage you can take. Each bag must not exceed a maximum length made up of all three dimensions, so length plus width plus height. And there may be a total length limit for all the bags combined. Both systems will have a maximum weight limit per bag for health and safety reasons, and this varies dependent on the country of departure as well as the airline. Subject to space availability, airlines will carry amounts of baggage in excess of the free allowance for an excess baggage charge. The maximum amount depends on the class of the ticket, with economy having the lowest limit and first class having the greatest limit. A carry-on, this is what passengers can take with them on board the aircraft into the cabin. The size, number of bags and weight limits are all set by the airline and local government anti-terrorism instructions. Contents are also restricted, so make sure you're fully aware of any restrictions before you check your whole baggage, because once it's gone, it could be very difficult to put the stuff you can't take on board as carry-on in the suitcase. Children, this is a reduction in an adult fare depending on the age. For most scheduled airlines, BA, Virgin, children are aged between 2 and 12 years inclusive. Some hotels have a maximum child age of 16, so the flight could be a full adult, but the room may be discounted. Do not assume that a child discount is applied. And also, it may be cheaper to voluntarily pay for an adult's price for a room, as in some cases this will be cheaper than paying for a child price, because of the under-occupancy surcharge. I don't get how companies make their charges up either, but if you're using a travel agent and you've got kids, see what the difference would be if you have your kids classed as adults. Children have the same baggage allowance on airlines as adults do. A direct flight means a change of, this is very important, a change of aircraft is not required, but the aircraft is landing at an intermediate point. An example, Heathrow to the Cayman Islands is a direct flight, but the plane touches down in the Bahamas. You don't get off, you sit there, and then you take off again. That's not a direct flight is not another way of saying non-stop. ETA, estimated time of arrival. Excess baggage, an excess baggage fee on the baggage greater than that's allowed, which is included in the ticket price. And this does vary, but the charge is generally 1.5% the highest normal direct adult one-way economy class in local currency per kilogram in excess of the free allowance. So it can soon ramp up as soon as you get more and more luggage on board. There are exceptions, so do check the airline's terms and conditions before booking. I told you, check the terms and conditions before paying. Full fare, that means the passenger has paid in full. Full payment at the time of booking usually guarantees the price. However, increased taxes will be passed on, so check the terms and conditions before paying. Groups. If 10 or more on the same booking, a special group passenger's fare may be applicable. For scheduled flights, this may mean actually a higher price per person than if they travel separately. This is because there are only so many seats at a certain price on the plane, and there may not be enough of these price seats to cover their whole group, so it moves up to the next highest fare available. So if you're doing a group booking yourself and your friend says, "Oh, it's only costing me £75 if I book it myself, why are you charging me £95? It's because they're a group and there isn't enough £75 tickets left for the whole group. Health. Always contact your GP before travelling for up-to-date advice. Private clinics may offer better advice, but do not leave it to your travel agent or your tour operator, as their information may be out of date And also, don't forget, they're not qualified to give medical advice. IATA, or IATA, is the International Air Transport Association, and this includes most of the world's airlines and enables passengers to travel on different aircraft around the world after paying the fare at the start of their journey in one currency. It also promotes safety and cost-cutting measures. An IATA licence is required to sell scheduled flights, so your supplier may hold a licence, or they may be acting as an agent on behalf of the holder of the licence. So that's another extra layer between you and your ticket. So if you see a travel agent and they have an IATA licence, then they will probably be cheaper than the travel agent next door that doesn't, because obviously there's handling fees for each stage. And it's very important because if you're doing a round the world trip, you can just buy one ticket and you can travel. Whereas if without this arrangement, you'll have to get different tickets for different bits and paying different prices. So it's really a good thing. Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on ukhealthradio.com. I'm continuing with my A to Z of travel jargon before I get into the travel news. And now we're moving on to infants. And the official definition of an infant is a child under the age of 2 on the date of return. An infant does not have its own seat or meal on the flight. Infants also have a reduced baggage allowance, but this may include one pushchair. If you're on a long-haul flight, well, that means you're on a flight for more than 5 hours. Maximum and minimum, sometimes written as max/min stay. All return flight prices are governed by the length of stay and other conditions. For example, minimum could mean that the passenger has to stay on a Saturday night or for 7 days. Maximum could be up to 1 year. The more restrictions placed on the ticket, then the cheaper the fare. Non-stop. The aircraft does not land on the way to the final destination. So I talked about direct flights earlier. People get direct and non-stop mixed up. They are different. Non-stop, there's no landing in between your departure and a destination airport. OK, well, it means the airline ticket has been booked or confirmed. Open jaw, a very useful ticket. It's a form of booking where the passenger arrives at one city and leaves from another. For example, travel from London to New York and then fly back from Boston to London. OW is a one-way flight. Pre-bookable, that's the phrase I can't stand, it's either booked or it's not. But anyway, pre-bookable, on most scheduled airlines it is possible to pre-book seats and also special meal requests. Again, as far as I'm concerned, you've booked the seat, you've booked the meal request, but never mind. RT is a return flight. RTG means routing. This describes a journey from start to finish. Seat pitch. This is the distance between the back of your seat and the back of the seat in front of you. People get seat pitch mixed up with legroom. It's not the same. Obviously, the seat pitch is a lot larger than the legroom measurement. But yes, it doesn't have to be the back of the seat in front of you to the back of your seat. It's any two corresponding points on a seat. A segment. Each individual part of an itinerary is called a segment. For example, a return flight will have 2 segments, the outbound and the return flight. Short haul. This is a flight of less than 5 hours. Special fares. Various lower price fares with more restrictions than penalties on the tickets. Stopovers. If the flight is not non-stop, then it may be possible to stay 1 night or more at the destination en route to the final destination. That makes sense. So when I did the direct flight example earlier from London to the Cayman Islands, which stops at the Bahamas, you could have a stopover in the Bahamas before continuing on to the Cayman Islands. Taxes. Taxes is a bit of a problem, not a problem, it's a bit of a word you think you know what it means, but it doesn't just mean taxes, it means everything added onto your fare. So all the extras that have to be added onto the price of the ticket. And before the EU stated that advertised prices should have the taxes included, the prices of flights looked really cheap and then they had all the extras. So taxes is including the fees the airlines have to